Welcome back, young wizards. This is not a green screen. This is a new playmat that I brought to this channel for the excitement and the enjoyment of the viewers as a throwback to the old days. Because in the old days, everybody knew this card, everybody saw this card. Well, not everybody had this card, but most Magic players will recognize the Birds of Paradise. I never really understood the value of the Birds of Paradise, never really played with one, but that's not really what the story is about. The story is about the origins of Magic. This episode is about where we came from and where we've come to. So back in the 90s, so long ago, old man Richie here to tell you about back in my day. Yeah, that's how it was. Back in the 90s, I was playing Magic. I was starting to play Magic anyway. And, well, I was blessed enough to be brought to the Boys and Girls Club, where, yeah, we played basketball, we played Foursquare, we played foosball. There was a euchre club. That was my attention at the time. I was more into euchre, actually. But eventually, I started to play Magic there. The kids were there, playing with their decks. The program coordinator there, Jeanette, JK, well, she organized tournaments and made, games and fun stuff going on everywhere for all the kids, and can't speak highly enough of her. She did so much for everybody there. But back in the day, we played with old cards and old decks. We played a 60 card format. We didn't really play with too many rules. Usually you had to have at least 60 cards in your deck, and maybe that was about it. But no more than 4 of any card. I would say that was another rule. But we just played with whatever we had. We traded cards with the other kids at the club, and the whole shebang. We had people steal cards from us, and we had a bunch of different, you had cards lost or damaged, destroyed. You spilled your box out on the floor occasionally. But all in all, it was a great place, and great place to learn and play Magic. And so I want to pull out some of my old cards, show kind of what it used to be back then, because it was such a different thing then than it is now. So I'm pulling out here one of my old decks. Oh wow, these are old. I'm just gonna start throwing some cards on the screen here so you guys can see what I'm doing, but more or less I'm trying to pull out all these old, okay, that's just all basic lands. Could have been a little more prepared here. Oh well. I've got all these decks that I've kind of saved from back when I used to play, way back in the day, and I just want to kind of show them now on the screen for you. So we'll start here with my Blitz deck. It's one of the first decks I ever made. As a kid, I chose these cards. This was kind of the fun that we had back in the day. Some of these cards are newer. They weren't in the original versions like this. But you can see here that we had a lot of fun. We had the beautiful mountain. This was one of our favorite mountains back in the day. It's actually a nice condition one, kind of. Like I said, there was no Spark Elementals when I first had the deck or anything like this. Fist of Anvil. Even Downhill Charge was kind of a newer card. Great addition to the deck once Nemesis came out. But yeah, back in the day, it was Orchishore, it was Mountains, Orchishore Flame. That's even a newer card. Some of these are kind of midway, got added through. But we used to run this. Goblin Chariot, stuff like that. We had a bunch of Bloodlusts. You hear my packs falling off in the background. And Aaron the Relentless, that card had some love. We played that. That was a big boy back in the day. We loved playing with that card. It was one of the great cards you could have. The only problem was it was a legend. But yeah, look at the absolute love on this card here. That was an original played card for sure from when I was a kid. That was my Aaron the Relentless. And you didn't run too many, you didn't try to get any more because he's a legend, so you always worried about putting that in your deck, or I did. Had a bunch of Oriflames, usually 4th edition. This one's 5th. Bunch of Bloodlusts. And we're just going to deconstruct some of these decks here. This is what I called Blitz. We had the Lightning Elemental. Lots of, basically the theme of the deck is, it's all red because it was harder back then to make a multicolored deck. It was actually a real problem in Magic. A lot of ways came out recently, or since then, say, to make it more accessible. You know, you got fetch lands and duels and all these different little fixers, but you know, it was honestly a problem back in the day. So a lot of time you just ran a monocolor deck, just to make it easy. Especially as a kid, it was just easy because you didn't have access to whatever. But the idea of this deck was basically, you're coming in unaffected by Summoning Sickness. You're adding, you know, Bloodlusts. If it gets through, you're throwing more Sand Scouts down. I didn't have the idea to play, you know, Sand Scout with like Earthquake or something, but I used to run Sand Stalkers, Sand Scouts, Chariots. This guy was new, I remember him. This is what I used to run all the time. The Sand Stalkers and the Oriflames looking like this. And that's just a mean deck, I felt like. Eventually you start dropping these downhill charges and everything. I had a Ball Lightning, was one of the best ones, obviously. I always had a kid that was going to try and, he promised he was going to trade me a Ball Lightning. He told me, oh yeah, I'm going to trade that to you. And I think I made some agreement with him. Traded him something else. He said, oh yeah, I'm going to come back and trade you a Ball Lightning. You know, I'll agree to trade you that. Yeah, I never came back to school anymore. Totally left the country. Like, so, you know, when you're a kid, you just can't keep that stuff. You know, if you trade something or let somebody borrow something, that could be the last time you see it. You know, you didn't know that as a kid, but that was the truth for me. Sometimes you just never got the stuff back. Like my copy of Chrono Trigger. One kid wanted to borrow from me. Anyway, Fling was the real finisher. That's the Blitz deck. We had fun stuff like that. This was one of my favorite themes, one of my favorite styles of decks. Immortalized now here on the podcast. I'll probably put that back in storage. And the reason I keep this deck around is because I might play with a new player, and I like to have a deck like this that I can hand someone and give them an experience of playing a 60 card deck that we used to kind of play back in the day, give them a general theme, kind of understanding of how the game plays. So that's one of the decks that I used to run there. And let's see, I have another one here. Or do I? I don't want to skip too far ahead. So let me grab a different box here, pull out more decks. So we had the Blitz deck, and then we had the Burn deck. That was definitely next on the list. Cannot forget the Burn deck. Because the idea was, the other one, you're going to send creatures, and the idea, well, it's not part of that deck, I don't know how that got in there. The idea was you were going to destroy everything with Burn. Burn, burn, burn. This came way later. In fact, that might be worth something. Let me pull that out of there. What's going on with that? Yeah, damage, 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 damage. All burn. Nice little lightning bolt. Is 4th edition lightning bolt worth anything? It wasn't even bad condition. Huh. Again, the mountain I really liked. Had several of them. We used to play Incinerates a lot. Lightning bolts, Kindles. Good stuff, you know, absolute just burn deck, straight burn. Any land you could get your hand on, you try to put in, just, you know, to give yourself some options. Cycling eventually became an option. It was good for some draw for a red deck. You know, just straight burn. So it's a very thematic deck. Furnace of Wrath, I was able to eventually get my hands on it. That card might be more something too. But it came in a little bit later. Mostly this deck was no creatures, and it was just thematically just straight burn. But it, you know, there'd be problems with it. It didn't necessarily work that well, but it was just kind of an example deck. Something you could play and kind of get the feel of. This is kind of what this type of card does. These are spells work, and this is what this type of deck can do. So again, I keep this around as a newbie deck, kind of as a memory of cards that we used to play, the game that we used to play. And so that's my Blitz and Burn decks from the 90s. Yeah, remember, these are kids decks, you know, decks we used to play as a kid, but they're good intro starter decks for 60 card format. I don't usually play 60 card format anymore, but I just kind of want to give you just want to go through some of my old decks before going on to my now, because now I play Commander. I'm going to go on to Commander decks here. First I want to show you what I used to play with before going in that direction. Oh yes, forgot about this deck. The old Maro-Geddon. Again, these decks have been gutted, but yeah, I eventually got cases and started casing my decks. And that's I absolutely love Swords to Plowshares. Look at that. That's been slid across the, look, there's some gum or something on there. That's been slid across the concrete. You used to play with that right after eating your French fries. You'd wipe your fries off on the card and then use swords as shit. Oh yeah, that was great. Love that card. The Armageddon, super powerful. Someone actually gave me this idea, this Maro-Geddon theme. So I didn't follow a lot of theme decks. I usually just kind of made my own. But this Maro-Geddon theme was really good. Creeping molds, some elves. Little mana producing elves are super good for this. Imperial Plate makes anything a Maro. So once Maro-Geddon came out, that was an obvious add. But I used to play just, you know, elves and Maro-Geddon, wipe their land out. This deck was powerful, you know. It's hard to beat it when you got no land and the Maro's getting bigger every turn. Meanwhile, you're just disenchanting their, you know, mana producing artifacts, and you're swordsing anything good that they had. Just Maros and Geddons and elves, and Thresher Beast eventually came out. That was a really good addition too. Yeah, this is old school proxy. This is how we used to proxy a card back in the day. Very formal, official Soul Ring proxy there. Totally authorized. Because you only had one, why would you have multiple when it was restricted? So I guess if you wanted to have multiple decks, but you know, as a kid you just did whatever. Regrowth. Eventually Naturalize came out. Cool little forest. Well, that was kind of a nice one. You just threw together whatever you want. Oh yeah, land tax too. Other official proxy. Because you can't have a deck without land tax, you know? That was a restricted card too, I think, or maybe you just didn't need more than one. The Maro-Geddon deck. That was a fun one. I remember playing against people all the time. All the time. So here, let me see here. What we got going on here? Looks like I've split up my soldier deck into two piles. Let me see if I got some other old decks here. Some nice decks to pull out. Oh, yes. We have the soldier deck. The old school soldier, the knight deck. I don't know what you'd call this. I just wanted to have a bunch of white creatures. What the hell is this? I just wanted to have a bunch of white creatures. The Voice of All was super good. I just wanted to have a bunch of white creatures. That's kind of what this deck was. I made this deck a little bit later as like I made this deck intentionally as a deck to play with for a newbie. You know, something to play against my burn deck or something. Yeah, just kind of simple white deck. I felt like pretty straightforward. I didn't really play with that deck much. That wasn't like one of my favorites. Again, I think I just made that for the purposes of playing against my other intro decks. Let's see what else we got here. Oh yes, then we had this deck. My cousin Matt, who got me basically into the game. Ended up having this deck, this prophecy deck. You know, it had a bunch of Keldon Berserker stuff that basically, if you had no untapped land, Well of Life. He had this deck, Brawlers, Scoria Cat, just whooped me with this Scoria Cat deck, and I was just like, wow, that's so good. So I ended up putting Power Surges in this deck, and oh, you can see too, we just ran out of basic, because I made so many red decks, I would just run out of basic land. So you can see I've used plains here. This was a very common thing I would do. I think other kids must do this too, because you just run out of basic land. So if you get 3 red decks, well, you're out of mountains real quick. So you just start using all plains in your red deck. That's what I did anyway. So I'd say, oh yeah, all the plains are mountains. These Power Surges, they've seen better days. Look at this. Oh, a little Wall of Discovery in there. So these guys literally went through the washing machine. Absolutely went through the washing machine. So I got really good trade. I was able to trade these very cheaply. Oh man, I was able to trade for those real easy. I think there's like a Citadel of Pain that used to be in this deck too. I don't know. That was another deck I had made. I liked playing that one kind of. And there was there's an artifact too, Chimeric Idol, I used to put in there. Must have come out at some point, but that was a really good card in this deck too. Okay, let's see here. Still going for more decks. Oh yes, the Life Gain deck. One of the most recent decks I've used to teach a new player how to play. You get a bunch of cool, like, this is just a side card, but you just get a bunch of life gain, life creatures that gain life, creatures that, I don't know, power up off gaining life. This thing was super good. Man, you just, yeah, everything is here. You're just gonna gain life and keep your stuff alive, and the Soul Wardens were so big back in the day when that came out. Wow. It was so strong. You put 2 or 3 Soul Wardens down in a big game, because we used to not only play just one-on-ones, but occasionally we'd have a big game. You'd have 4, 6, 8 kids sit around a table, and it's a big game. So you play left to right or right to left, and then more or less you can attack left or right, but you can't attack like all the way across this table. So, but when something like Soul Warden came out, you're just rolling your life up all day. Everybody's playing creatures, you're 30, 40, 50 life and stuff. Silly. Absolutely gets silly so fast in a big game with this Soul Warden. Especially you drop 2 or 3 of them. Like all these Divine Offerings and Spirit Link. Oh, God, I always love the Spirit Link. Beautiful original art. Yeah, you just run 4 Soul Wardens, bunch of planes. You know, get something like that. I don't know. This is a little intro deck I made. I didn't really play this deck much as a kid. This was literally for new players. Little portal card there. I took some of my old cards and made it basically a life gain deck for new players. And it's actually very powerful. Stands up pretty well against the Burn and the Blitz. I think I played it against Blitz. Teach a new player the game. And the life gain deck beats Blitz, just as a spoiler. Life gain deck definitely beats Blitz. So that's how that goes, in case you're wondering. Let's see what else we got here. Ooh, a nice little discard deck. I never really played this deck either, because honestly it was like too powerful and just not that fun. Never really my style. Black, for whatever reason, never really was my style. But it especially wasn't my style here. But I just knew of the theme of discard, and it was cheap and it was easy to get and it was easy to make the deck, so I just made it. You know, your first turn you drop Dark Ritual Megrim or something. I don't know, you duress them first turn. Mind Twist, so good. Oh, this is another way we would do proxies. You just write directly on the card, BFM left. That's the big monster from Unglued. Another Funeral Charm. Megrims, just all kinds of. Oh, there's the happy stamp right there. This should be the thumbnail. Check out that happy stamp on that guy. So, when you play in tournaments at the Boys and Girls Club, you would get what we called happy points. You'd win the tournament, or you'd rank high, or you'd defeat other players, or whatever. They had some system of generating these happy points that you would earn. And as you earned enough happy points, you could go to the, I guess in theory, go to the magic shop that they had, or storage that they had, and you could go to the happy store, what we called it, and you could select from the happy binder your card. You could redeem your happy points for cards. And I guess this was one of the cards. Okay, so they would stamp all of the cards from the happy store. I don't know, for whatever reason. And so you could earn happy points and spend them on cards. And this came from the happy store at some point. That's why that stamp's on there. And they use different stamping. But yeah, this is the deck we used to run. Okay, so that was newer, but man, this was the card back in the day. You rocked a Hymn to Turok on somebody with a Megrim out, they take 4 damage and lose 2 cards. Wow, that was just, oh, they were just so hosed by that. Duress, Hymn to Turok. I remember getting these different arts of Hymn to Turok, made me so happy. Even though I think there's like no value on these, but I really loved these. These, especially the wolf one. And the rack, then you get the rack on them. Oh yeah, it's terrible proxies. Oh yeah, that's a plate. That's real beautiful. Wow. Oh yeah. I don't know what happened to it exactly, but that thing is wrecked. Okay. So yeah, I just want to kind of go through some of my old decks here. Not trying to make it too long of an event, but let's put the Spectres up. Abyssal Spectre, so good. So hard to beat. Anyway, I didn't really like black. Not really a black player. In fact, I might just reclaim my cases from this deck. But once I case a deck, I like to leave the cases and just buy new, so that's a fault of mine, I guess. I'm always running out of cases then. Let's see what else we got here. This just looks like a grain example deck. I've just got a bunch of junk kind of thrown together. I'm not even going to go through that because it looks like a waste of my time. I don't really play it that much. This looks like another green example deck. I don't know why I have 2 of these together. I'm not even going to go through that. I'm not even going to dignify that. Okay. So let's go to the decks I did like to play. Eventually, I came up with some of my own decks. And what I liked to play was blue. Oh, the draw. Oh, the memory lapses. Oh, the force spikes and the counter spells. Oh, I love it. When you just get to say no. But this really was this deck. The 4 Altar of Dementias. The Tormod's Crypt. The Beta Control Magic. Why do I have Beta Control Magic? What? Wow, look at the beat up Beta Control Magic. Wow, who does that? Who does that? I don't know how long I've had this. Jeez. Wow. Okay. Just put that back away. But yeah, I made this around the time of Bribery. So whatever year that was, 99 or so. 4 Briberies in the deck, a bunch of Reigns of Power. This was the key. You run the Reigns of Power, Alter Dementia, Tormod's Crypt or Graveyard, counterspell any problem, And then you take their creatures right out of their deck with the briberies. You get the Ray of Command, and that's all. That's all she wrote. You know, you drop the control magic on them, they have no chance. So that was a deck I liked to play all of the time. You run. This is the key. You run Memory Lapse, and then you just alter Dementia at the top of their library. Anyway, I loved this deck. This was one of the decks I played the most. Absolutely super fun. This is where I fell in love with Magic, and I wanted people to play against this deck, and I liked to play this deck, and I wanted to test it out, and it had a good success rate. And sure, it was lots of counterspells, and people didn't like it because of that, but, you know, kind of tough luck. Your deck's going to win for its reasons. My deck's going to win for its reasons. That's just how it is. So, I'm just trying to clear some space here. Give myself some working room. I just wanted to show you some of the decks. I also made this soldier deck. So around the time Maro-Geddon, I saw this Bone Splitter come out. I think I did a pre-release at Maro-Geddon. Auric Steel Shaper and Bone Splitter. Started doing stuff like this. I guess these came a little bit later. But we did Raise the Alarm and Lockdown Warhammer action. The Sky Hunter, super strong here. Bone Splitter, super good stuff. You rock the Otherworldly Journey to protect yourself or nuke somebody else's stuff. You got the Lockdown Punisher, lots of damage. This came way later. They get the Blade Master out. The Steel Shaper was key. You run 3 or 4 of them. Absolutely fun. Yeah, that's when I first got the cool cases with the shinies. Yeah, this deck was really good too. I felt like this deck was competitive, and had a Sword of Cauldron here too from the pre-release. But I really like to play this one because it was quick, it was straightforward, it was a break from counter spells, you know, and people get to fight the Knight Army with the equipment. And that was just kind of a cool addition to Magic when equipment came out, and we got to do that whole thing. So that was one of their favorite decks too, as I, you know, entered high school and got a little bit older. Also started learning about combos, started doing more combos. I tried to make this deck. Actually, this doesn't even look like a deck. It just looks like stuff that was kind of put together. Okay, so that's not a deck I was going to show you. Oh, kind of maybe it is. Am I connect to this? Nope. So this is a different deck. So I used to run Scalplexus. I just loved exiling people's library, just like the Altered Dementia deck. Run some basics, cool basic. I always like that one. Icy Manipulator, again, been through the washer. Definitely been through a washing machine. You can tell from the softness of the card. We used to run Icy Manipulator a lot back in the day. A bunch of them. Memory Lapse, our Vexing Arcanics. Boom, boom, easy, easy. Boomerang, just totally lock them down. Oh, this is my Lantern of Insight deck, that's right. I was always playing with the top of their library and just basically putting it under my control, making sure they draw junk. That deck I didn't play as much. Until I got to... Oh, and then I had this deck. One other deck I'm going to show you. So I had a Slate of Ancestry deck, because these were just so good back when Onslaught came out. I just had to have a deck on it. Well, yeah, this actually doesn't even look like it goes with this deck, but this is really a Plow Under deck. Just overwrite my last statement. This was a Plow Under Uproot deck. And I did have the Plow Unders and the Uproots and the Creeping Molds and the Fallow Earths. I don't know what I did with them. But we had Elves and Forests and Plow Unders. And basically if you're destroying all your opponent's land, this was basically green land destruction. You know, you just have no chance. This deck would just step ahead of you, put a bunch of land out, put a bunch of elves out, and then just start eating your land and your artifacts, and you just had no chance. Super mean to run land destruction. So I didn't really play this deck much, as good as it was. Need to lure with the Thresher Beast. It's kind of a joke, fun thing to do, you know? Just a fun thing to do. Eventually, I made my last 60 card deck. And I'll show you that now. Unfortunately, I have to go to work. Oh my god.